συνεχίζουμε με κάτι που νομίζω κουμπώνει πάρα πολύ ωραία. Συνεχίζουμε με την Pleavin, η οποία θα μας μιλήσει από την Αγγλία. Η όταν κάποια στιγμή πριν από 2-3 χρόνια είχαμε την ιδέα του συνεδρίου, έψαξα λίγο στον κόσμο πώς μπορώ να βρω έναν επαγγελματία που να κάνει Scalp Micropigmentation. Για όποιος δεν το ξέρει, θα σας το πω πολύ γρήγορα, γιατί θα το καταλάβετε λίγο αργότερα. Είναι αυτή η τεχνική που αφήνει τελίτσες πάνω στο τριχωτό του κεφαλιού, πάνω στο κρανίο και θυμίζει πόρο, σαν να βγαίνει τρίχα. Αυτό είναι κάτι που ενδιαφέρει πάρα πολύ τους άντρες, κυρίως, αλλά είναι κάτι που μπορεί να βοηθήσει πολλά θέματα. Η λοιπόν, αν και Αγγλίδα, και λέω αν και Αγγλίδα γιατί κάποια στιγμή που δούλευα στο Λονδίνο, το κρύο και έτσι λίγο η διαφορετικότητα των Άγγλων, θα πω, δεν μπορώ να πω ότι με συγκλώνησε και όταν σταμάτησα να δουλεύω στο Λονδίνο, χάρηκα πάρα πολύ. Όταν όμως γνώρισα την χάρηκα πάρα πολύ για αυτήν την γνωριμία, γιατί επανήλθε λίγο η πίστη μου στους Άγγλους. Η αποφάσισε να έρθει στο συνέδριο αυτό, το οποίο έπρεπε να πραγματοποιηθεί 2-3 χρόνια πριν, και ας μην πραγματοποιήθηκε. Αυτή θεώρησε ότι ήταν ένα δείγμα του σύμπαντος, ότι πρέπει να ξεκουραστεί και έτσι ήρθε, έχει δεν έχει, για να με γνωρίσει και μου είπε ότι εμένα δεν με νοιάζει, θα περιμένω πότε θα κάνεις αυτό το συνέδριο, γιατί θέλω πάρα πολύ να συμμετάσχω. Η εννοείται ότι είναι με σύνδεση. Θέλω να δούμε λίγο αν είμαστε έτοιμοι. Η όμορφη Eve με τα πολύχρωμα μαλλιά, μόνο που σήμερα είναι μόνο κόκκινα. Hi Eve, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't understand you, but I can hear you.
Eve, I think I'm going to let you talk about the scalp micropigmentation because we really, really want to know what we can do about it.
Okay, sure. So are you ready for my presentation?
I am. We are.
Scalp pigmentation, what is it? Well, it's the implantation of tiny micro-sized dots using a specialist pigment, and it's put onto the scalp, and this should therefore mimic little impressions like shaved hair. And yes, it is a tattoo, if you want to call it that, because it's implantation of pigment into skin, which is the definition of a tattoo. But it doesn't look like a tattoo. It looks very realistic. It looks like, real hair stubble. So I find that some clients are more troubled with how the appearance is at the front of their scalp, that they've lost their hairline. We see the transformation when we put a new hairline back in. We can see, honestly, it takes years off them and they feel so confident. However, some clients are a little bit more concerned about the back. They don't like that rear view, where they're more concerned. They feel that people are looking at them from behind, and obviously they can't see that. They're checking that people are checking them out and see. So some people are more concerned with the crown, and we can fill that in. We can match that shaved hair at the back to match in, so it looks seamless and they don't appear to have a bald area at the back. So the presentation is called Scalp Micropigmentation, Master of Disguise. And here we have a picture of Clint Eastwood in the Western movie, The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly. As you can see, it's demonstrated here with good, bad, and ugly work for scalp pigmentation. So what is scalp micropigmentation? I just mentioned that before. It's the implantation of specialist pigment, micro-sized dots. The layering of these impressions mimics the illusion of shaven hair. So we layer it. We do it usually in 3 sessions, so we can see how the pigment is settling in the skin, because everybody's skin tone and it's different. So we want to see how that's looking each time, so we know what to do with the next layer. A little bit like painting a wall. So here is the recreation of a new natural hairline. You can see it makes a huge difference to really his whole look of his face. And here is filling in the empty crown area, where you can see this client was particularly bothered with the back of his head. He felt people were looking at him from behind. So he felt much more comfortable like this. the client here needed to take his hair a little bit shorter, and then we can mimic those shaven hairs with the little micro pigmentation dots. So the considerations for the individual client, everybody's different. That will be hair density, hair thickness, and hair colour. Let's take a closer look. For each individual person, I will match to the remaining hair. So thick, coarse hair will require slightly larger impressions, like so. Finer hair will require tiny impressions, like this. This gentleman wet shaves his scalp every day, so he wanted a very light look. A denser pattern of remaining hair will be simulated by impressions closer together. So again, we're looking at the density of remaining hair. So there's not one size that fits all. We like to look at the remaining hair and match it in. Paler hair will benefit from diluted pigment shades. I've used a much lighter shade here, been very careful with him. Obviously, I don't want to overdo it here. And also we can disguise thinning hair by adding pigment through and under the hair. It creates a shadow. It creates a shadow inside, so we can't see so much the pale scalp compared to the darker hair. So combining scalp micropigmentation with a hair transplant is a brilliant idea. I know many men that have been to visit a hair transplant surgeon only to be turned away, because the most common reason being that simply there isn't enough donor hair to fill the desired space. So the hair transplant surgeon doesn't want to do a bad job and just give this gentleman a tiny amount of hair on top. So they generally say no, it's not aesthetically good. And this is where scalp micropigmentation plays an important role. Here is an example of a gentleman with a 12-month-old hair transplant. You can see that the density does not match the density of the sides of his hair, obviously where he hasn't lost it. And now this is how it looks with the addition of SMP. Much better, I think. He was very, very pleased.
Yeah. Very beautiful.
So we need to collaborate together. This can be planned from the start of the hair transplant restoration journey, because what I'm seeing, a lot of men are coming in, they're dissatisfied with the amount of transplanted hair and they want SMP. But I think that we need to work together and maybe start this journey with the idea that we're going to do both together for that individual client. So I've spoken to various hair transplant surgeons, and we have come up with the idea that the best course of action will be to do 1, maybe 2 applications of SMP, followed by the hair transplant. And then 12 months later, the client can undergo another 1 or 2 sessions of scalp pigmentation on the donor area and on the scars if necessary. Here is an example of, I stopped halfway through my treatment with this gentleman. He had a hair transplant 2 years before, and I just wanted to stop and show, obviously the right-hand side has got some scalp pigmentation and the left hasn't. So you can straight away see that it's going to make a difference. This is all great, but the emotional freedom from it is just incredible. The words I've heard from clients, I'm going to show you some now, but this is just a tiny amount compared to everything that I've heard. And it's, a great feeling to be able to do this for people.
Oh my God, so nice.
Yep. So this one, only his wife knows he's had it done.
And it really doesn't show. It really looks really natural.
So yeah, a lot of people find that it frames their face, instead of there's no hairline. They love to have that new hairline back. And even, look, if you're giving somebody a lot of confidence back, I'm sure their confidence will come across to everybody else. Going for a job interview, feeling more confident, I think it's more likely you're going to get that job.
The job and the girls, Eve.
Yes. I've heard lots of stories. Lots of stories of people saying that they feel that they're getting more attention from the opposite sex, but then we discuss it and we actually feel it's more because of their confidence that's more attractive rather than the actual new hair look. Mm-hmm. So we also have then the scars, like I mentioned earlier. Obviously, some of the scars from years back can look absolutely terrible. And I've even had clients say to me, people have come up to them and said, gosh, have you had some kind of brain surgery? Have you had some kind of crazy car accident? Because these are obviously people who don't recognize what a hair transplant scar looks like. So they feel they can just come up to someone and ask, oh, what's happened to you? What's this scar? Of course, the last thing they want to say is, well, I had a hair transplant 25 years ago. It's not something they want to talk about. So, I mean, you may say, why not grow their hair over the scar? But this is a problem, is that, you know, they want to actually shave it down now so they can have scalp micropigmentation across the rest of their head, but it's really exposing the scar. So again, we'll match in and disguise the scar as long as the hair can be kept as short as possible. And this here is a really old transplant. This is an old technique called plugs, where they would take like kind of chunks from the back of the scalp and implant it at the front. So he's been left with terrible scarring, which of course they felt would be covered by the hair. But as you can see, he's lost hair on the crown area, and now he wants the scalp pigmentation. So I feel that this is a much better result for him. It takes away from the visual of the scars.
Much better result, really.
He's very happy with it. Here is an example of a good scar covering. It hasn't, obviously we haven't done any scalp pigmentation on the top, but also this is an example, I'll do a close up now, of a pretty poorly done.
Yes, I can see the pigment is everywhere.
Yeah.
So this is about the pigment. I think you have something to tell us about the pigment.
Definitely coming on to that on another slide, but yes, basically, part of this situation here is the scar is very white, as is with many scars, and when the pigment is too strong or implanted too deeply, it can give off this wrong shade, and this almost looks like a blue color. We have alopecia areata, which obviously is not exactly a scar, but can be devastating.
Yes, it can. Eve, I'm gonna have to ask you to go a little bit faster, because I would really want to ask you the questions about the people that are watching.
Oh, it's okay. Just quickly, this is the after the alopecia areata there, so he feels much better about that.
Also perfect.
There's also facial hair as well, which we mustn't do this.
Oh my God. No.
So obviously in-depth training, and this is where you just quickly mentioned about the pigment. So why doesn't it go blue over time like a body tattoo can? Obviously it has to be done properly. And the most important thing really is specialist pigment. The pigment concentrate isn't too much, and also it's a pure pigment with carbon. Okay.
Yes, because we really have this problem in Greece. I think we are seeing all the more people walking around with blue scalp or black thing on their hair, on their head, and it's really terrible.
Yes, so really, there's many reasons for that, but obviously the pigment is very important, the implantation, and also the skin on the scalp is very different from the skin on the body. So a person who may normally do a body tattoo needs to understand how the skin on the scalp is different and how it should be treated.
And I think this is why you do also courses.
Yes.
You're training people, because from what we've talked about, you want to help all the more people you can, and this is the way you can help them, by making all the more good people working, good scalp micropigmentation guys working on the head. And I think that I wanted to have time to ask you a few questions, but the main question that everybody is sending is about the color, so you've really answered that. So I want to thank you.
It's important for a long training session. There's lots of places popping up doing very short courses in training, which is just terrible, because they won't have enough knowledge to go ahead, and they're just going to create something terrible on a person's head. which is terrible. So, I mean, my courses are 6 days long at least.
6 days, yeah, it can explain it. I'm going to thank you. And I know that everybody that is looking this right now can talk to you. And they can find you on the site if they have more questions. I know I do, but the time is pressuring us. And I want to thank you very much. And I'll talk to you later, Eve.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, bye.